commonly a subset of that data inside into these databases that we run inside Azure. And you can now store the raw data within our new data lake service that we're making available and announcing this week. Now, this new data lake service that we're announcing today is really a revolutionary way to store and process data. We've built the new data lake service using more than a decade of real-world learnings, managing exabytes of data for our own Microsoft services. And the data lake service enables you to store literally an infinite amount of data. You can create accounts that store exabytes of content with individual files that are up to a petabyte in size. And this infinite capacity allows you to keep data in its original form, whether it's IoT data, log files, or any other non-relational structure. You can then run high throughput, low latency analytic jobs to analyze and process this data at any scale. You don't have to worry about setting up or managing your own clusters to do this. Instead, you can focus on the task at hand that you want to get accomplished, and the service will automatically scale out for you and apply the appropriate resources to get it done. And the service provides built-in enterprise-grade security support, enabling you to securely lock down, control, and access to any data that you store within it. Now, one of the great things about the data lake service is that it exposes data using the standard Hadoop HDFS API. And this enables you to actually leverage any analytic software already out there that supports HDFS. This allows you, for example, to run standard Hadoop jobs and Hadoop workloads on top of anything stored inside the data lake. You can take advantage of and write R applications using our new Revolution R distribution and be able to now have those scale out and query against literally exabytes of content. You can also stand up and use VM-hosted Cloudera as well as Hortonworks clusters to access and run analytics stored inside the data lake as well. This gives you maximum flexibility and enables you to derive even more insight from the data that you ultimately store. So Azure now has, we think, the richest analytic capabilities of any cloud and enables you to build intelligent apps that are highly differentiated for your customers. And this morning I've talked about some of the types of applications you can do with that, that you can use to drive your business, disrupt businesses, or grow profits. This technology, though, can also be used to really change the world in non-business ways as well. And one of the things I like to do is invite on stage a customer of Azure who's doing just that, and that's Just Giving, who basically optimize philanthropic giving campaigns and help funnel money into good causes. And what I'd like to do is invite Mike Bagumbi on stage to talk about what they do and how they're doing it with Azure.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Scott. Great, good morning. This is what I'm going to talk to you about today. This is what we've built on the platform. We call it the Give Graph. It's a set of complex algorithms that will fundamentally change the way you and I interact with causes that we care about. It's going to change the way we give. But to give you some context, let me tell you a little bit about our company first. We're based in the UK, and we're the largest social giving platform. We enable people to raise money and do amazing things for the causes and for the charities that they care about. Some people decide to do the marathon. Obviously, recently, people were throwing buckets of cold water on top of their head, all in the name of charity. And we've been fortunate in having around 23 million people from over 160 countries in the world do this, and they've raised in excess of $3 billion for charity and for good causes. And this has taken us a lot closer to our goal, which is to ensure that every great cause gets the funding that it requires. Now, we live in a world where we have billions of people who have that natural desire to give. And if everyone did that, we would eradicate poverty. We would put cancer out of business. Now, our team had the task of trying to understand why that isn't happening, using analytics, using machine learning, and getting a real understanding as to how we think and how we make that decision to give. And our analytics has identified 3 key things that our product needed to use data for. The first is that it needed to change giving from being a transactional activity to something that's far more engaging. It also needed to be personal, and of course it needed to be social. After all, we've solved some of the biggest problems as the human species by connecting with each other and collaborating. But at the heart of all of this is that we needed to make giving personal, which for us means we need to understand what you specifically care about. Traditional ways of trying to address personalization, we would use things like lookalikes or collaborative filtering. But in this space, that doesn't work. What you care about is specific to you. If you care about cancer or beating cancer, I can't find somebody who looks like you and say that they also care about cancer. Everybody has something specific that they care about. However, using machine learning and graph theory on this platform, we've managed to crack that problem. In fact, what we've done is we've built a machine that does three specific things. First of all, it understands how you specifically want to give. See, giving isn't just about money. It understands whether you want to give time or whether you want to give effort. Secondly, the algorithm can work out specifically what you care about. And it also understands that what you care about changes. It's a moving data piece. It's not static. It changes as your circumstances change, as your associations change, and the more interactive you become. And lastly, my most favorite part of the algorithm is that it understands how to interact with you, specifically with you, to make giving more engaging and remove those barriers that might exist to stop you from giving. Now, we couldn't have done this without the Azure platform. We're a small team of scientists and engineers, and what the Azure platform really allowed us to do was focus intensely on our goal. We don't have a team of operations experts who can manage a huge cluster of cloud machines in the cloud. But this platform was ideal for us. And these are the components that we used, and this is how we architected them. We essentially had three core processes. We had a batch process, which runs nightly, a real-time process, and a process that allowed us to put our APIs in front of the product. And the batch process is the backbone for everything that we do. And at the center of it is HD Insight. This is where we do all of our large calculations. This is where we build the give graph that I showed you earlier. So essentially, we take all of our data, we upload it into blob storage, then we spin up the clusters and do all of our calculations. And once that's done, the clusters are put down and the data is moved onto Azure table storage. And at the same time, we have a real-time service that helps us keep this product interactive. It helps providing data to the machine so that it can learn and it can continue to become more effective. We use F# mailboxes and Azure Service Bus for that. And of course, we have Azure websites or the Azure web app, which is where we put our APIs and where the product has access to it. And all of this manifests itself on the product itself. This is what our feed looks like. This is what that platform is powering. And what's exciting is that this is where we are seeing giving move from a transactional activity to a more engaging one. We're seeing people be far more interactive and far more social, connecting, collaborating about the causes that they care about, the charities that are important to them. And as I conclude, I can't emphasize enough how much of an impact this is going to have. And we're really in a fantastic position because this platform has allowed us to focus exclusively on our goal to ensure that every great cause gets the funding that it requires. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Cheers.
The opportunity to build applications that can change the world has never been greater. Each of you now has access to cloud resources that were unimaginable just a few years ago. There's never been a better time to be a developer, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you build. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll move to the next chapter of our platform innovation, Office. There are three core concepts in the transformation of Office to a platform. The first one is about the user experience. We're opening up the Office user experience for all of your applications in fundamental ways, so that your applications can show up in the context of what 1 billion+ users of Office do in Office. Create stuff, get stuff done, collaborate, communicate. We want you to be able to build applications that fit naturally into those contexts. Second, we want to go beyond single applications, their APIs and data silos, to a semantically rich graph of data that is available for you to be able to consume as well as extend. And third, we want to have the capability to reason over that rich graph and add intelligence into your applications, so that not only does it drive new features, but more importantly, drives engagement in your applications. So those are the three concepts that fundamentally change Office. So we wanted to give you a quick tour of that so that you can look at what your applications can do to exploit these capabilities. And for that, I just wanted to introduce Rob Lefferts from our Office team to show you some of this. Hi, Rob.
Hi.
So how about we get started by talking about how we're moving from Office from us to Office with partners.
That's great. Let's dive right in. What we're looking at here is Word. This is Office 16, Win32. And what we see is a solution from DocuSign. Scott was talking about them earlier. They do digital signatures, and they've integrated the power of their service directly into Office using a new modern web add-in framework. It's built on top of HTML5 and JavaScript and communicates the document through a JavaScript object model. Let's switch gears and look at another one. This is an add-in that we're building partnering with SAP that makes it easy for me while I'm building a spreadsheet like my product inventory information to pull information directly from SAP. This is built on top of SAP for Gateway for Microsoft. And one of the great things about the new add-in framework is that it works across platforms. So let's switch over to the browser. And in Excel Online, I get to see the same spreadsheet with the same great add-in experience running in both places.
It's the same add-on that goes everywhere Office goes.
That's exactly right. And in fact, let's take a look at Excel for the iPad. And what we see is exactly what you want to have. The same solution hosted in Excel for the iPad, showing the same add-in running for SAP. And this will be released in upcoming months. But let me just show you how I could use that. To connect to SAP, I'll click Connect, and it does exactly what you want, which is connect to my on-prem SAP server, pull the content out, and deliver it directly inside of my spreadsheet running on the iPad. Cool. Let's talk about something very different. Let's talk about making a presentation. And when I'm doing this, I, of course, want a constant source of high-quality professional photographs that I can integrate into my slide deck. PicHitMe is a relatively new company that is building just such a service and has provided an add-in here that lets me search through the photos in those service and paste them directly within PowerPoint. And one of the key things about this add-in model is that it's a roadmap for how we're going to do add-ins going forward. So let's take a look at the newest member of the Office family, Sway. This is a tool for interactive storytelling that runs great on the web and renders beautifully mobily. And we've integrated a set of services that make it easy for me to pull in content. We've integrated with PicHit, and we will be delivering in upcoming months, live services. We will be delivering in upcoming months the exact same framework and add-in model that runs across all of the endpoints for Office. That's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook. But let's take a look at people working in Outlook, professional users, handling and managing all their email, dealing with a great deal of information. They want to stay up to date on who are all these people that we're talking to. And what we're showing here is an add-in from LinkedIn that makes it easy for me to do that. It pulls the users off the To-In-CC line. It shows them to me directly in the context of my email, so I don't have to leave the flow of how I'm doing my work. Salesforce has built a very similar thing that pulls from the To-In-CC line, but also looks up the companies that are showing up on the mail thread. So I get to see the people and connect to them in Salesforce, but I can see the accounts, and I can drill right into the opportunities and take action from here within Outlook without leaving the flow of my work.
Yeah, and it's been great to be working with the Salesforce team because they've really exploited all of the extensions we have across the entire surface area of Office, be it in Excel or in Outlook or in other areas, and built the business process right into the collaboration and communications infrastructure. And that's fantastic to see.
Absolutely. Outlook is not just about mail. Outlook is also about my appointments and my calendaring. And it has all that information in a structured way. But one of the important things for me is not just being at the meeting, but getting there on time. We're partnering with Uber to build a solution that does exactly this. So here's an add-in that Uber has built that I can set an Uber ride reminder to show up ahead of time and make sure that I get to where I need to go. As we switch over here to the iPhone, what I actually see is I've got a reminder from Uber saying slide to get a ride. So I'll go ahead and do that. It brings up Uber. and it sets my pickup location. The cool thing is that it got my destination because that lived in Outlook. So
Right.
Outlook knew where I needed to be, and now Uber knows where I need to go.
Now that's great. So that shows you how applications that you build show up throughout Office. They extend beyond any single application. Now let's talk a little bit about this graph. How are we building the graph and exposing the graph to developers?
Yeah, let's actually pop it open and take a look at exactly what it looks like. So this week at Build, we are announcing a preview of the unified API endpoint for Office 365 APIs. This builds on top of the file mail calendar workloads that we delivered last fall. And what it does is make it easy for developers to get to this data in a unified, consistent way. So we're just popping open a little API Explorer tool that can show us what do some of those request and response patterns look like. So what will you as a developer have to do in order to get access to this rich data? What you can see is the URLs are pretty simple. graph.microsoft.com, version number, and the tenant that I am connecting to. And this will make it easy for me, in this example, to query Active Directory to get a list of users. I'm querying from users for a particular department, in this case operations, and what I get back is exactly what you would expect. Clean, well-formatted, easy to understand JSON. Every developer in the room has a whole toolkit that can parse this and use it to build great solutions. But the point is that this is actually a graph, and so I can go from an individual user to drill into their files. All I have to do to get to the files from OneDrive for Business is stick /files on the end of the URL, and from there I see data documents coming back from OneDrive. These are just the files that the logged in user has permission to see.
And that's the powerful concept, which is you no longer are going to different applications for different data. You're not going to Active Directory for users and groups and then to OneDrive for files, but you're able to traverse the entirety of the graph with these APIs.
Exactly right. In fact, speaking of groups, let's pull up another example. Office 365 has a new concept for a unified modern group that brings together the people and the documents and conversations and calendar that they're having, and we're exposing that through the unified API. So I can query the Active Directory for groups, and I can navigate through them to find files that belong to those groups. So here we actually see stick on a /files, and it brings up the files associated with that group, again trimmed for the logged in user. Now this notion of logged in user is a really common pattern for people building solutions, and so we've actually made it super easy. There's a me token that you can stick in your URL to just get back the data for the logged in user.
And that's probably very important because everything here is permissioned through the policies and ACLs that you put into AD. So in some sense, the me token gives you access for the user using the application's credentials.
Exactly right. And because now I have access to my information, I can go and look at my calendar, just /events on the end of the URL, and that brings back appointments that are live in my Outlook calendar. And it's same idea to get to messages, /messages, and boom, I'm in my inbox coming from Exchange, and it's just that easy.
Awesome. So how about we talk about the last concept, which is how do we go from here to really building the richness of intelligence inside of your applications?
Sure. So this is powered by the Office Graph, and the thing about the Office Graph is we talked about data, we've talked about add-ins, and we've really talked about how we can use that to drive a whole nother set of insights. We know who are the people, the conversations, the meeting, and the organizations, and what we can do with that is provide additional insights to developers. They can use that in the preview here to query the graph to get information out, and in addition, we're delivering a first-party app in the shape of Delve that actually provides me every day with information about what am I working on and helps me search and discover the content that my colleagues are using.
There's something funny going on?
I'll keep going.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, so here I am looking at Delve, and what I see is exactly what you'd expect, some cards and contact that'll help me stay up to date on what my colleagues are doing. So I see an Excel notebook that is coming out of OneDrive that lets me see here's what my boss built, here are some KPIs, here's an attachment that lives in email. But we've been working with partners to imagine what will it look like when we have additional third-party signals coming into the graph. How can they get into this notification stream? And what we see here are opportunities.
So that's a card from Salesforce.
That's exactly right. This is a card from Salesforce showing the amount, showing information about who owns the account, et cetera. I can navigate down. Here's information coming from Twitter. And beneath that, we see information coming from Trello. So if people are collaborating in boards, I can navigate directly through and get to that. And let's actually scroll down a little bit further, and what we see is a purchase order coming from Dynamics AX. That looks like a super important one, so it was great that Delve made it easy for me to take action on it.
Right, so this is no longer now information that is inside of the Office graph that's based on the data of our apps, but people are able to extend the graph with additional edges and nodes. That's all surfacing in Delve.
That's exactly right.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you very much.
That gives you a flavor for how Office is fundamentally changing. In fact, there's one other SDK that we are launching in addition to the Office graph, which is